Hey guys, as many of you may be aware, there was a very large Scrabble tournament held last weekend in Lake George, New York. This is a popular annual event that this year drew about 170 attendees, myself included. This was the first year I was able to play this tournament, so I was super excited, and having played, I can definitely say it lived up to the hype. A lot of noteworthy things happened in and around Lake George last weekend, so instead of making a bunch of short videos describing all of them individually, I've decided to make one longer compilation video in which I'm going to highlight some of my favorite and most noteworthy events, ranging from good to bad to ugly, that happened in Lake George last weekend. At least for me personally, the highlight reel actually got started before any games of Scrabble were even underway. I was in the Lake George area for several days before the tournament, and each of those days I went for a really fun hike in the Adirondack, or as I jokingly like to say, Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York. Now, early to mid-October is a great time of year in the Adirondacks because you have awesome fall foliage and mountains. And as you guys can see in a few of the pictures I'm posting here, I even was fortunate enough to get some snow. Not really something you might expect in a lot of parts of the country for early to mid-October, but in the Adirondacks, at least on the mountain I hiked up on that particular Tuesday, there was 8 inches of snow at the summit, which made for quite a slog, but also made for some absolutely stunning pictures. And on the 5th and final day of my hiking trip, I met up with none other than my good friend and fellow Scrabble YouTuber, Josh Schogel, and we did about a 5-mile hike just a little bit outside of Lake George before we squared off in the Ultimate Clash of Champions later that afternoon, a really fun best-of-7 Scrabble match that was televised live on the Let's Play Scrabble YouTube channel. The Ultimate Clash of Champions was a big success. We got excellent viewership numbers throughout, and also excellent Scrabble content from both myself and Josh. I ended up winning the best-of-7 match by a score of 4-2, and there were lots of awesome moments throughout the series, but I want to focus on one in particular in today's video. Take a look at these clips.
Max already set it up.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna see a swig, folks. Quietener, is that with this blank as a Q? Is that what you're... Oh my god, that's unbelievable. Making the blank a Q, you can see he has it set up and he's licking his lips right here. Just look at this facial expression, waiting for the hot sauce. I wonder if Josh is gonna find any way to... There you go. I love the zoom in. Appreciate that to our producer, Josh. Let's Play Scrabble's mastermind back there. But we're about to see something pretty special here, Matt.
Let's go. Let's get the hot sauce out. You have to be so confident to play this too. This is 82. He's got so many double doubles for 78 through the R. But he pulls the trigger on Quietener in double challenge. And with that, let's cut over to Mac. Maybe he'll introduce the hot sauce, and then we'll get a shot. I can't quite read that bottle, but here we go.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Is this going to factor into play, Matt, going forward? Are we going to see Mac, have any kind of issue, hot sauce-related physical issue?
Josh plays first in round 3, and I might just sit there for about 7 minutes on turn 1 if I'm Josh and let Mac process how spicy that hot sauce was. I think you can tell from the look on his face, even Mac wasn't expecting this hot sauce to be this hot. And this is Mac's idea.
So yeah, pretty funny stuff, guys, there. You can't help but laugh at it. I can't help but laugh at it watching it over, even though I actually participated in it. If you were confused, what happened was, before the match, Josh and I agreed that at any point, if somebody played a 9-letter bingo or longer, they would have to take a shot of very spicy hot sauce. And that happened to me in Game 2. I bingoed with Quietener with a blank Q on a double-double through a TE for 82 points. And as a result, after that game concluded, on the live stream in front of all of the devoted Scrabble viewers, I took a shot of hot sauce. And as you can see by my reaction, it was very, very spicy. And it may or may not, as Matt was suggesting there, have had an impact on my performance in the next game. In any case, when all was said and done, like I said, I did eventually win the match 4-2, so couldn't have hurt me all that much. But yeah, pretty awesome moment there. And again, before the tournament itself even started. That's enough now about the pre-tournament shenanigans at Lake George. Let's talk about some highlights and lowlights from the actual event. My first particularly notable moment of the Lake George main event happened in round 3 against my very good friend and fellow expert Eric Goldstein. I was first in this game and had the dreaded WU combo to open, so started with Fawner for 32 points, keeping my U, but at least scoring well and getting rid of my F and my W. Eric immediately responded with Tednoid for 86 points, easily his best play, and jumping into an early lead. I drew poorly, pulling 5 vowels, and was forced to play Oder, spelled the British way, for just 14 points. And Eric very eagerly bingoed for the second consecutive time with Reproven through the Ian Tednoid, jumping out to a lead now of over 100 points, 157 to 46 on just turn 2 of this game. So things definitely not off to a great start, or so it would seem for me. However, there's a catch. Eric's bingo of reproven is actually not a valid word. And I know that sounds surprising because reprove and proven are both fairly well-known words, so it sounds like then reproven should be a word. If anything, it could be a past tense of reprove. However, the past tense of reprove happens to only be reproved. Reproved is valid along with reproves and reprover, but not reproven. It's a fairly difficult word to challenge off if you haven't encountered it before, but fortunately for me, I had seen this very word played before and knew for a fact that it was invalid. So I instantly slapped this off the board and sent Eric's score back to 86. That's the good news. The bad news for me is I'm still down by 40 points, and I had another suboptimal draw after Oder, and I once again have 5 vowels. However, here I made a brilliant move. The key here, guys, is whenever you challenge off a phony by your opponent, especially a bingo, you need to take advantage of the fact that you know all of their tiles. And in particular, I know not only what Eric has, but what Eric does not have. And I know that Eric does not have an S and that Eric does not have an L. So here I played Uria for 4 points through the R and Oder. A play that under normal circumstances is crazy, because with 2 S's for Urias still unseen and 4 L's for Uriel, along with 2 blanks, Eric is super likely to crush me with a play down the triple on the O column. However, like I said, Eric just played RPROVEN. I know those are the letters on his rack. He doesn't have an S or an L. So I am now threatening to make a huge play, or hopefully a bingo with Urias on my next turn. And Eric is either going to have to ignore that spot and leave it for me, or sacrifice a huge number of points to block it, either of which outcomes would be a big win for me. So this was a really nice play on my part. I didn't actually draw that well on my next turn, and I wasn't able to capitalize particularly effectively. I won't go through the rest of this game. However, when all was said and done, I did end up winning. So in that sense, you could say this play paid off and was definitely a very notable moment for me early on in this big tournament. What was even more notable, though, was that I got to use the same exact tactic several games later in my round 11 match against Chloe Fatsis. This game started off very poorly for me, with Chloe starting out with a large lead. I eventually clawed my way back a little bit and then decided to make a risky move, opening a triple-triple with Theo for 33 points. Chloe immediately jumped on this opportunity, slapping down Redoable for 140, taking a nearly 200-point lead. However, just like Eric's play of Reproven, the good news for me is that Redoable is not valid, and I promptly challenged this off the board. So that's good news, but the bad news is I know Chloe's still got a blank and a bunch of really other good tiles. And she's got valid threats like Enabled, either on row 12 or column K, or Erodible through the O and Theo. And she's got enough valid threats here that there's no way I'm going to be able to completely stop her from bingoing. And as I did against Eric, I have a poor rack. Once again, I have 5 vowels. So here, I decided to use the same exact tactic I did before. Noting that Chloe does not have an S, I played 12 for just 6 points from the T in Revoist, setting up my own S, figuring that Chloe will bingo elsewhere on the board, and then I can hopefully hit a big play down the triple column, hooking 12s. Now, Chloe does have the blank, but I knew that if she made the blank an S, with her rack, the only valid 7 is Beetles, which is not going to fit because the O in Theo obstructs it. And if she wants to use her blank for like 30 points with a play like Based, that's perfectly fine for me, because then she wastes her blank, so to speak, for just a 30-point play instead of a 60 or 70-point bingo. So just like my play against Eric, this felt like sheer genius. However, unlike my play against Eric, this is one of the most embarrassing blunders I've made over a Scrabble board in a long time. And several of you guys probably realize why. Well, twirl takes an S, but it takes a lot of other things too. And most importantly, it takes a D. Toiled is a word. In fact, it's a very common word. And it happens to also take an R for toiler and a T for toilet. That's kind of besides the point because Chloe doesn't have one of those either, but she most certainly has a D. And she can play diable for 107 whopping points down the O column with toiled. So this is a gargantuan blunder on my part. Now, luckily for me, and maybe because Chloe was so confused by this play, she somehow didn't spot toiled either. And she played her best bingo that doesn't involve putting a D onto 12. She played feedable for 78 points, at least partially obstructing the spot. So, pretty wild and hilariously bad sequence of events here. Both myself and Chloe, and remember guys, we're both ranked in the top 20 of all Scrabble players in North America. We both simply forgot that toiled was a word. Now, the funny thing is, I noticed pretty much immediately after I hit my clock, and definitely was doing all I could to avoid doing a big facepalm, which might give it away to Chloe. And once she missed it as well, she realized about 5 seconds after she hit her own clock, and both of us just could not stop laughing at our respective stupidities for the rest of this game. When all was said and done, Chloe did end up holding on to her lead and winning this game by a narrow margin of 6 points, but not without a lot of laughter and embarrassment throughout the rest of this ordeal. Pretty funny and embarrassing stuff, but the highlight reel is far from over there. For our next entry in this highlight compilation, let's move away from games involving Mac Meller. And let's move to the second division where we had a high-stakes battle between seasoned players Joel Horn and Bobby DeSimone. This was a very important match that was pretty uneventful for the first 3 quarters or so. With 28 tiles left in the bag, Bobby is sitting on a 33-point lead and a very nice rack, A-E-I-L-N-S-T. Bobby has several playable bingos here, but he knows he's not out of the woods yet, because while he's going to take a lead of over 100 points, the pool is still very potent. There are still 2 blanks, 2 S's, an X, and a J unseen to Joel, which he could use to inflict serious damage as this game draws towards a close. Bobby here finds his highest scoring bingo of plainest from the P for 83 points. Joel indeed has an S and a blank and bingos right back with slitted, by far his best option. Bobby draws poorly, pulling 5 vowels, E-I-O-O-U, along with a D and an N after his bingo of plainest. And the pool is still extremely scary with a blank, an S, a J, an X, and other high-scoring tiles. However, amazingly here, Bobby has a bingo, and he has the foresight to look for one and find it. Idonius, a very nice 5-vowel 8 to the S in slitted. That is now 3 consecutive bingos by these 2 players combined. And surely it's going to come to an end now, as Joel also draws poorly after his own bingo. He has the blank, but he has Joorvy. Definitely not at the top of your list of good-looking bingo racks. However, Joel was not fazed by this. He slaps down overjoy, not just a bingo, but a 140-point stunner down the O column, hooking due his only playable bingo, his best play, by nearly 100 points, and Joel all of a sudden takes the lead 450 to 402. Joel has now doubled his score from just 2 turns ago. 2 turns ago, before slitted, Joel had 225. Now Joel has 450. Bobby was also pretty far back into the 200s and now has 402. And Bobby is not done, because he has Scourge and Scrooge as 7s on this rack. However, the problem for Bobby is that unfortunately, POH is an interjection and doesn't take an S, so neither of his bingos are going to play on this board. But Joel's bingo of Overjoy stops 1 short of a triple word score, and Bobby pounces in the bottom right corner with his highest scoring play of Cogs for 90 points. Even though this is the first play of Bobby's last 3 turns that is not a bingo, it scores the most, getting more than either Plainest or Idonius. And with this play, Bobby now jumps back into the lead, 492 to 450. And Joel has a lot of scoring tiles here. Unfortunately for Joel, he has too many of them. And with Bobby holding ERU and surely playing out on his next turn, Joel does not have enough time to get rid of all of these high-scoring tiles. He does the best he can, getting 42 for Mew and briefly tying the game, but with Bobby going out with Sure for 8 points and getting another 34 points from Joel's unplayed EVXY, Bobby wins in a stunning victory, 534 to 492. In a game that, just a few turns earlier, as you guys may recall, was seeming like it was going to have a pretty pedestrian final score. With just 28 in the bag, it was 225 Joel, 258 Bobby. Once again, just a few turns later, both of these players had well more than doubled their scores, with Bobby winning this game 534 to 492 after the game ended with a sequence of bingo for Bobby, bingo for Joel, bingo for Bobby, bingo for Joel, and 90-point play of cogs for Bobby. Absolutely awesome stuff from these two players. You love to see it. But if you guys like scoring, then please do not go anywhere, because for the next entry in this highlight reel, I present to you a game from the Collins division at Lake George between 2015 Scrabble Players Champion Matthew Tunnicliffe and 2024 Collins Scrabble Players Champion Josh Castellano. In this heavyweight battle, Matthew strikes first with an opening bingo of the Collins only scaled for 76 points. Josh has Drek, 7 consonants including the Q. He finds a nice dump of Rickley for 25, which gets challenged, giving Josh the 5-point bonus, so that gets him 30 points. But Matthew bingos right back with Griddles for 72, and Josh still has his Q to deal with. He dumps it with Chi for 11, and he's still down over 100 after just 2 turns, and Matthew is far from done. He bingos for the 3rd consecutive time with Overrun for 75, and that is exactly what he's doing here, folks. He's overrunning Josh with points. But Josh does draw his own bingo, getting down Lamster and Overruns for 92. And Matthew is still far from done. He pulls the first blank, and not only does Matthew bingo here, he triples with the very nice find of Hangi Ying with 2 consecutive eyes for 167. Matthew has 390 points after just 4 turns. For those keeping track at home, that is an average of 97.5 points per turn for the first 4 turns. An absolutely blistering pace. And after Josh drops Fun for 31, Matthew is still not done scoring. He plays Pentito for 69. This is actually a bit of an error. He could have played it for a lot more with Prickly, but he may have missed that. He may have just been so overwhelmed and shocked that he had a 5th playable bingo that he didn't even bother to find the correct spot. So in any case, Matthew plays Pentito for 69 over here. Josh is still struggling with vowels, and Matthew finally slows down here. He doesn't bingo for once. He plays the nice both hand for 37, another Collins only play, and when all was said and done, Matthew would go on to win this game by a final score of 741 to 368. So these guys combined for 1,109 points. And Matthew, for those keeping track, has more than doubled Josh's score of this game. Truly a crazy game. Even in Collins, it is not every day, or not even every tournament, that you see 700-point games or 1,100 combined point games. Awesome stuff. You love to see it, and definitely a worthy entry in this highlight reel. Now, you guys may remember at the beginning of this video, I mentioned how this compilation would feature not just the good, but also the bad and the ugly. We've seen plenty of good so far, including the last couple of fun examples, and also some bad, like my horrible blunder of 12 against Chloe. But we haven't really seen the ugly yet, and that's what I want to deliver to you guys for the last couple examples of this video. And in particular, since I know you guys love them so much, I want to show you all some ugly phonies, some of which didn't stay on the board and some of which did stay on the board, that were played at this year's Lake George tournament. Let's jump right in, first starting with the final round matchup between longtime experts Jason Lee and Cesar del Solar. I don't have the full board position for this example, but all you guys need to know is that at some point during the game, it was Cesar's turn. He was holding a rack of EEEGLR blank, and there was an open W on the board which he could use to start an 8-letter bingo. And that's exactly what Cesar did, playing Weregeld, W-E-R-E-G-E-L-D, for 76 points. However, the problem for Cesar was that he didn't actually score 76, he scored 0 because Weregeld is not a valid word. And Jason, after thinking for about a minute, realized this and challenged the play off the board. Jason played Elsewhere on his turn, leaving Cesar in basically the same position as before, once again holding EEEGLR blank and with an open W. Cesar tried a similar word on his second turn, with Weregelt, Weregelt, making his blank a T instead of a D, again scoring 76. But once again, not really 76-0, because instantly this time, without any thought, Jason challenged this play off the board for Cesar's second consecutive phony, and Jason went on to win this game quite handily. So, what went on here, guys? Why did Cesar melt down like this and play two very similar phonies in a row after his first one got challenged off? Well, it's not so simple as you might think, because these phonies actually do resemble a valid word, Wergeld, which is defined rather lengthily as a price paid for the taking of a man's life in Anglo-Saxon law. And not only is there Wergeld, there are actually 4 spellings of Wergeld that are acceptable. There's Wergelt, Wergild, and Weregild. So Cesar's tries of Weregeld and Weregelt actually don't look so unreasonable now that you see these valid spellings. Wergeld is one of many Scrabble words that has a lot of acceptable spellings, where there seemingly is not a whole lot of rhyme or reason as to what is valid and what isn't. Other examples that come to mind would be Arg and Ganef. And unfortunately for Cesar, it cost him very dearly in this case, with losing 2 consecutive turns a pretty steep price to pay for not being sure of the spellings of Wergeld. However, if it's any consolation to Cesar, sitting at the table directly next to him was another longtime top expert who played arguably an even more embarrassing phony in the final game of the tournament. I wonder who that was. Sitting next to Cesar and Jason during that game were none other than myself and Joey Malik. Joey and I have of course played hundreds of online Scrabble games against each other in the last year or so as part of our regular Blitz battles, which I've uploaded to my YouTube channel, but we hadn't actually played an in-person tournament game in nearly 5 years, so we were both very excited for the opportunity. Joey and I were paired in the penultimate round, round 14, and we had a really interesting game that I ended up winning narrowly with a late bingo. Nothing particularly embarrassing happened that game though, which is why it didn't make it to this portion of the highlight reel. However, the same cannot be said of our round 15 game, because Joey and I were next to each other in the standings after I defeated him in round 14, we were paired again in the final round 15. And it was going to be a pretty important game, as it would decide which of us placed with a cash prize. Now the game started off very well for me. I got off to a 100+ point lead after just a couple of turns, but Joey was slowly clawing his way back throughout, and I faced a tough rack at this juncture of the game on the screen with a 94-point lead holding 4 E's, a D, a P, and a T. And I found an absolutely fantastic play in this position that was miles better than any other option. The tough-to-see insertion of petted for 42 points through a disconnected T and D on row 10. Not only an insertion, but also making several simultaneous overlaps and insertions, forming et, fix, and ruined vertically in addition to the horizontal petted. This was such a satisfying play to get down. It's super aesthetically pleasing to make these kind of multiple overlap and insertion plays, as they don't come up too often. It also scores shockingly well, 42 points for just a P and a couple of 1-point tiles. And last but not least, it gets rid of 2 of my 4 E's, so it's also fantastic for balancing my rack. It's just a fantastic play all around, and I was super happy to get it down. However, Joey quickly let me know why this was actually not a fantastic play, but a huge blunder, because it forms an invalid word. And Joey promptly said the word hold after I set this play down, indicating he wasn't sure if it was valid and might want to challenge. And at first I thought maybe thix was not a word. I thought, is thick an adjective? Does it not take an S? I was pretty sure it did, but maybe I was misremembering. It didn't occur to me that the problem was not thix, it was actually ruined. The vertical 5-letter word of ruined is not valid, and I was so sure it was good. I thought it was an adjective, meaning resembling a rune or containing a rune. A rune is a letter from an ancient alphabet, and I must have gotten confused with runic, R-U-N-I-C, which is indeed valid and means something along those lines. In any case, I was pretty certain that ruined was good, and I played this without much hesitation, but Joey, to his credit, realized that ruined was not valid, and he made the pivotal challenge in this position. So Petted did not score 42 and did not get rid of 2 E's. It scored 0 and got rid of 0 E's, leaving me saddled with 4 E's again on the next turn. Now, fortunately for me, I was up enough points at this stage of the game that I was able to hold on and win this game and win the 4th place prize despite this egregious blunder. But definitely an embarrassing mistake for me. I do not mess up on 5-letter words too often. And yeah, despite winning this game, it was definitely not the way I wanted to conclude this tournament with a phony 5-letter word. But hey, it happens. And I don't say it happens just colloquially. It happened again this tournament. Not to me, but to another very high-ranked expert. Earlier in the tournament, longtime top expert and 3-time World Cup champion Jackson Smiley was taking on 2022 Scrabble Players champion Michael Fagan. And on the very first turn of the game, Jackson, holding the X on his rack, opened with Xylin for 46 points. Now, Xylin is not a word, and Jackson completely thought this was a word, as he explains in his commentary, kind of like I completely thought ruined was a word. Jackson, in this situation, most likely conflated 2 similar-looking words. Xylan, X-Y-L-A-N, and Kylin, K-Y-L-I-N, are both valid. So he seemingly hybridized these in his head to form Xylin. However, while I was not so fortunate in that Joey Malik did challenge off my phony 5 of Ruined, Jackson was fortunate. Michael did not challenge Xylin off the board, and instead let it stay bingoing back with Aeolian on his next turn. So a very lucky break there for Jackson, as Michael could have easily challenged Xylin off the board and just opened with Aeolian for 64, and Jackson would have been down 64-0 as opposed to 60-46. So pretty crazy that Jackson played Xylin and Michael also let this go. It just goes to show you guys, even the best players in North America do make mistakes. I, the reigning Scrabble Players champion, played the phony 5 and lost a turn. Jackson Smiley, the 3-time reigning World Cup champion, played a phony 5, and his opponent, Michael Fagan, the 2022 Scrabble Players champion, didn't challenge it off the board when he clearly should have. So, a lot of examples there, guys, of top players not knowing their 5s, which is a set of words that most people assume that top players know absolutely cold. And we know them pretty well, but like I said, we're humans, we're not perfect, and we make mistakes. But when we do make mistakes, if nothing else, it provides very good content and entertaining gaffes for my YouTube channel, so there's at least that. And with that, guys, the Lake George 2024 highlight reel, the good, the bad, and last but not least, the ugly, is officially a wrap. Really hope you guys enjoyed all of these examples and got some good, much-needed laughs. I certainly did. I wish I didn't make so many embarrassing mistakes, but hey, it happens, and like I said, it's good fodder for my YouTube channel if nothing else, so that's always a win. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Really appreciate your support. Let me know what you think of all of these hilarious events in the comment section, and I look forward to seeing you all for the next video very soon. Bye-bye.